Robert's mom is like a great actor. Her name is Talia Shire.
Yeah.
And she's like amazing and iconic. And her and I talk about anxiety all the time. She said she almost faints before she gets on stage. Like she gets so much anxiety before she has to perform. And she almost like kind of shuts down. And then she just has to go and move. And I thought that was so interesting because you would never expect someone that's so like great and who seems so confident and calm to have such like stage fright. But she told me, look, you have to just remember, you have to carry your soldiers with you. You need to literally do an exercise where you take, like you have like an army behind you and you have to you like talk to your army and know that they're there. It was like, you have to do this with me as an acting exercise. Put on the armor. So we like sat there and put on our shield and our armor. And she was like, now you just know you walk ahead and you have your army behind you and you just go into the day. I mean, it seems like ridiculous.
No, it doesn't.
But I mean, you can apply that to anything.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. Zoey is the first photographer we've had on the podcast, and I've been so interested in talking to her because we're friends and I admire her work. What I think is fun about talking to like a visual artist is like there's not that many places where your work, like where you're talking, your work is so visual. We talked about her creative strengths, her weaknesses, her superpowers, her energetic blocks. The amazing thing about the arts is that all the stuff shows up when you're making things. For Zoey, it's fashion photography that's the mirror. She was so open, and we really dug into it. Here's our conversation.
When you think of a photographer, someone who's like behind the scenes, like they're usually really behind the scenes, you know, so what I thought would be like a career, I'm such an internal kind of shy person. And I just wanted to, first of all, like just call out my like I have a total like inferiority complex. So I'm like, so when you asked me to be here, like I was just so grateful. So because I have like such a high imposter syndrome complex. So I was like, oh my God, really? Are you sure it's like really, do you want me to be here? So I wanted to first call that out and thank you for like asking me to be on because it was really meaningful. So I think like that would be like a microcosm, I think, of my approach in life and growing up. And I was always like an artist. And so for me, photography felt like a very kind of insular, solitary field to go into in like a really beautiful way that I could kind of, you know, think about my creativity really by myself. And so the irony is when I decided to maybe pursue photography as like, you know, a career, I think one of my like karmic, lessons was that it's actually so it's so social. It's so for me, it's so much more social than I expected. And it's like the muscle that I had to exercise was so foreign to me. And in order to become like a professional photographer in the field that I wanted to be involved in. So one of my just big lessons in general was, you know, was more kind of in that direction. And that's something that I'm navigating, and that kind of affects my creativity also, just because I have to kind of really navigate what that looks like, and it's not a comfortable place for me. I've spent my whole life trying to find, like some people have one mentor that they look up to, and they really connect to that person. That person helps guide them. I've never had that person. And so I think part of my journey has been like looking for these pieces of mentorship anywhere that I can find them. And that could be like, you know, my parents telling me something, or a friend telling me something, or maybe a teacher, or like even someone who's rejected me, I feel like has taught me something. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like I'm able to look back and be like, wow, that was so helpful in a way, and made me kind of help me to believe in myself. So I feel like I've been searching for that kind of mentorship concept throughout my whole life and career. And now, you know, my view of what that is different. It's like, how can I be open to life so that I'm like, you know, kind of open enough so that it teaches me, and I'm present enough to like see what those kind of signs are.
And seeing it more as this like the patchwork quilt effect of it's going to be a little bit from here.
Totally.
This like social anxiety, this social thing you brought up is so interesting to me because I think a lot of people like have this, artists in particular, but even athletes and everyone, like we have like our primary work, whether you're an athlete or an artist or someone else, is like might be, you know, an expression of who you are. It doesn't require you to like interface, but the business side of it and the producing side of it does.
Yeah.
And so I am really curious because there's like a lot of like 20 something year olds who like, you know, look to me for this guidance. And I think a lot of them do have the social anxiety that you're talking about where they're like, I know what I want to do. I know I'm good at it, but I don't know how to navigate the like social side of my goals. You know, like what was hard for you? Is it like literal conversations? Is it managing a bunch of people? And how did you actually start to do that?
It's hard because I feel like I'm still dealing with a lot of that. So, you know, it's my mom. I remember I, you know, used to vent to my mom all the time about how painful like my social anxiety was and how I would get so nervous before every shoot or every time I'd have to, what I felt like perform would be. So I guess the root of that for me is I care so much about wanting to do a good job, like that. What I really should be caring about is doing a good job for myself. I mean, that's like the truth. That's easy to tell someone who has, you know, feels anxious a lot. But I think the problem happens when, you know, you're looking for external validation is when you really get into trouble. So I've had to kind of, build up like an internal strength just by doing it over and over and over again. And I really think it's just a practice and a timing thing and an age thing. Because I still get nervous, you know, with every job that I have, but it's less than it was before. So at least that's some kind of progress.
Yeah.
But I definitely have to talk myself out of it in the moment.
What do you say?
Part of the problem is I'm so sensitive. So like truly it's like, it's part of like, it's like the blessing and the curse of that sensitive creative person. I mean, you could look to the side, you know, just kind of give Matt a look and I'd be like, oh my God, she's, you know, she's bored, she's over me, or just something internal, like some kind of internal thing that like dialogue that I'd have with myself. My confidence, I think, lies in like the actual doing of the creativity. And that's what I try and focus on, is not the other stuff. Just like, where do I feel most confident? And that's when I'm in the creative. And I think when I used to vent to my mom all the time about just my anxiety and insecurity, she told me something really interesting. And she would be like, you know, you think you're so insecure and you think you have so much self-doubt, but you really wouldn't be getting up and still like doing this every day if you really didn't believe in yourself. And that for me was like an oh my God moment, because I was like, wow, that's so true. On some level, if you're continuing to get up and do whatever makes you afraid every day, you have to on some level believe that you can do it. So that's kind of like, I remind myself of that when I get really nervous and doubt myself.
A lot of us have like a secret, very certain confidence in ourselves. Maybe it's just a sensation we have, right? The anxiety, maybe it's not rooted in reality is what your mom's saying.
Totally.
You know, it's just it's a sensation that we have. Maybe it's just that.
Yeah, it totally could be.
Well, and as a photographer, it's like you can't step into first of all, you're mostly in studio, right? So it's a very unforgiving, bright environment, right? There's no hiding anything. And your subjects are looking to you as a confident leader.
Yes, for guidance, definitely. Yes.
So you're required. There's not really the option, and it's not even adorable to be not confident in your role. Right? Like it's actually a problem.
That's such a great way to put it. There's nothing cute about it.
No, there's nothing cute. And so, because, you know, in some professions, it's almost endearing.
Yes.
And not in yours.
No, that's true. That's such a great point, because you're right. When people look to you as a leader, they want to feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a photographer, you are actually guiding somebody to feeling like their most expanded, beautiful, expressive self.
Yes.
Right? And so if you're negotiating your own confidence while you're trying to give somebody else open the doors to theirs. What a negotiation you're in.
That's such a great way to put it. Yes, that's amazing.
Clearly you do it, right? You make amazing work. People love working with you. You've repeatedly worked with people. So it's like clearly the data is there that you're good at making people feel and look how they want to feel and feel how they want to look. And can you think of a time when you stepped into a job and sensed that the subject was more confident than you? Like, was
every damn day. The majority of the time, I think people are more like confident than I am. But sometimes just because I'm such kind of a sensitive read the room type of person, I'll usually try and meet people like where they are. So if I feel like someone's nervous, I'll first maybe call out my own nervousness or my own wanting to work with them to like make something great and kind of find it together. And then if someone's confident and I can feel that they really are looking for like that guide and that person to kind of direct like the scene, I can meet them there. It's more of an exercise for me internally. But it is almost like, like I guess a little bit of an acting exercise in a way. And I work with a lot of actors, so I think it's kind of really helpful to almost even play a part myself sometimes, or channel that part. And that part is like, it's not that it's not there. It's just really hard for me to access. So.
And again, it's real. Your confidence is real. It's just about accessing it. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. I really do, that they have it and they're just like, how do I get through the maze today to get to like me, which is the person who can execute artistically. And I wonder, like, do your clothes matter? Like, what do you wear? Like, does that stuff help you? Or what are the little things that help you play the part that day? And what it sounds like is that you're really almost like a dance partner to your subject, where you guys want to be on the stage. You're together doing this. So you're vibing together.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. And then sometimes though, I don't have a dance partner. That's when it's really hard. Is like sometimes I'll be at a shoot and I know that the person won't want to be there. And it's really hard to get into that, like, that dance with someone who doesn't want to meet you halfway. So, and I think that's, I ask like a lot of directors actually how to work with actors. I'm really curious how directors work with actors, just because the approach is so different than photography. Still images, like, how can I look a certain way, the best, in quotations, or beautiful in one static image, and acting is so much more three-dimensional, and there's so many more variations to it and nuances to it. So my direction to them would be, face the light or chin up, chin down, which is not really inspiring, right? So I think it's funny. I asked Robert's uncle, who's a director, Francis is like a great director.
Yes.
And
Francis
Ford Coppola.
Yes. Francis.
I don't know if you've heard of him. But I am so intrigued by asking like someone that great, how do you work with these actors? And get kind of the best out of them. And what he did is he gave me an exercise, and the exercise is the as if exercise, which I'm still learning, but it was really simple. He was like, just, create a story. It's as if, if you want them to look towards the light, don't necessarily say look towards the light. Say, glance up as if you were looking across the stage at someone that you were in love with, or something like that, to kind of give it like a motivation. So that was really, I took that to heart. And so I'm really trying to, I think that's helpful. I mean, to me, it was really helpful. And I think it's probably helpful to actors to kind of ground them in a moment too. So that was a cool piece of advice.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's like a story. I mean, it's dropping them into a story and having them be a real character in it. That's really cool.
But like work ethic with that family is, I think, really important. And it really is not about being in the spotlight. It's really genuinely about like the craft and the process of the work. So I think that's something that like honestly, all of them have in common is just really getting into the nitty gritty. Robert's mom is like a great actor. Her name is Talia Shire.
Yeah.
And she's like amazing and iconic. She's like a very like rare breed because she's so dedicated. She's like an art history book, like in a way that nobody is nowadays. And she only cares about art history and film history. And her and I talk about anxiety all the time. And I mean, she's actually someone that I would consider a mentor, and someone who I totally look up to and would ask, she'd probably be my first call, like in terms of any creative question or physiological, any question, spiritual, creative. But I remember told me one time, she was like, she said she almost faints before she gets on stage. Like she gets so much anxiety before she has to perform. And she almost like kind of shuts down, and then she just has to go and move. And I thought that was so interesting because you would never expect someone that's so like great and who seems so confident and calm to have such like stage fright. But she told me, I'm sure it's okay that I say this, but she was like, look, you have to just remember, you have to carry your soldiers with you. And she was like, you need to literally do an exercise where you take, like, you have like an army behind you, and you have to you like talk to your army and know that they're there, and then strap on, you have to like strap on your like belt and your armor. Like literally, she was like, you have to do this with me as an acting exercise. Put on the armor. So we like sat there and put on our shield and our armor. And she was like, now you just know, you walk ahead and you have your army behind you and you just go into the day. I mean, it seems like ridiculous.
No, it doesn't.
But I mean, you can apply that to anything. To walking down the street, to going into an interview, like to anything. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna like, so yeah.
But to think about anything that makes you nervous, anything that you care about as something that like get equipped and like get out there is a really fun way to like harness all your preparation, right? Because that's what that is.
Totally.
It's saying that like, I have it, now let's bring it all with us and not leave everything behind, that not the work, the competence, the support, whatever it is that encompasses that armor.
Yes.
To bring it with you.
Absolutely.
And take yourself seriously enough to know you're not like naked out there, like everything added up to you being in that situation.
Yes. Can I ask, do you have anxiety at all or no?
Yeah.
You do?
I guess I have like adult ADD, which one of the things is I get extreme social anxiety. So like after this, I'll be like, Zoey hates me. Like, and then I'll like I'll be like, she really hates me and didn't want to make this drive. And then I'll be like, wait, like, I don't think she does. I think it was actually okay. And she knows these things can be challenging. Like, you know what I mean? I'll have a whole conversation, but it won't even matter if it's someone. It's like almost anyone, I'll have that immediate feeling. That's my social anxiety.
I fully relate to that. Totally.
Really, yeah. It's embarrassing because you're like, you didn't do anything to make me feel that way.
Totally. But that's kind of what, like, I guess, one thing that I actually like to lead with, which is kind of has to do with this, is like, I don't know if you do this too, but whenever I meet anyone, I think my go-to is just to get everyone comfortable. Is I really do think at the core, like, I love people. And I just want people to like feel seen. That doesn't mean that I'm like the most social person or like I want to go party, but like I care about connecting like one-on-one with people. So I think part of my go-to in work and just in like adult friendships is going just there right away, just to like, this is me. I'm going to like cut myself open and you can really see me. And if you like it, if you don't like it, you'll know right away and I won't feel rejected down the road. But if you do like it, then maybe we can be friends and kind of, create a relationship. But I think I do go to that place of just shouting out, I have anxiety, or, that's kind of my go-to, just because I think that maybe more people do than we know about.
Right.
And my hope is like that someone will share it back with me also, and that we'll be able to connect on it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't get that. And that's, I think, where it's for me more like jarring, because I want to meet someone at that kind of honest, like open place, but not everyone wants to do that.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
Well, it's a value of yours to like share, but it's also, my producer Matt says this thing where he uses the word accelerating a lot. So it's like, by putting out there who you really are, if it like, even if it's a polarizing intersection to put somebody at, it's going to accelerate the relationship
Totally.
in whatever direction it's meant to go in and whatever direction it's going to go in eventually anyway. And maybe there's like what we're really talking about is like, you know, when you get a box and there's the bubbles, the packing bubbles, maybe everybody has around them their own packing bubbles that are really unnecessary feelings. Like it's your anxiety about social, it's your imposter syndrome, blah, blah, blah. And so to be more vulnerable, like to be more vulnerable is to like pop all those stupid little bubbles and get to what's inside the package a little quicker because it's a protective thing.
Totally.
Right? Like whatever your anxiety is either like partly genetic or adapted or your experience.
Yes.
And so it's kind of cool to just have a principle of like in the right spaces, socially, especially, you just will put it out there. And even in your profession, you find a way to like try and meet the person where you are sensing that they are.
Yes.
So that if you can make them feel like we're here on this together.
That's a great visual way of putting it. That would be a great picture and a great acting exercise.
Just us wrapped
just
in
fully and how just how do we pop them and kind of get out of that.
It's fun to pop them. I feel like as a kid you wanted to pop them.
Totally. Doesn't matter who I meet. I think like my feeling is still the same.
Well, that's important to know too, because some people feel like people listening are going to be like, I get nervous for every race, or they're a little athlete, or they're like, I'm always nervous to go into the office every day, and they're just trying to like,
great, not great, but
no, it's just true,
it's true, yeah.
And so I think the question is just like, okay, if it looks the same for you every time, what does it look like?
It starts maybe the night before, for sure. Usually, I'll talk about. I think for me, I've learned that talking about whatever is making me nervous, a shoot. You know, it's better for me and more helpful for me to talk about. Usually that's with my husband, just because he's there and he gives great advice. And I think once I've kind of talked out my anxiety, you know, it can be though, I've talked out anxiety before a shoot with my mom, my dad, a friend. I think for me, just talking about my nerves and kind of what I think could go wrong or what my perception of maybe what it will be, it kind of like dissipates the like energy that's built up. Mm-hmm. So I think talking about the fears, and the fears specifically change for each person that I'm going to photograph. Like maybe I'm really intimidated by someone, or maybe I think they're going to be, a certain way based on maybe something that I've heard about them. But I really do try to kind of go into everything neutrally. And then I have like, I guess, little rituals that I'll run through the morning of a shoot that's going over. I mean, really what's helpful is like going over the creative with my team. Like I feel like as long as I'm really honed in on what I'm doing and not getting wrapped up in, I guess the external, the external validation or failures, then I can focus. And I think that's kind of probably, I feel like when everyone strips it back, like, when you think about when you get the most afraid, it's, for me at least, it's usually, am I going to disappoint someone? Am I going to be good enough? Are they going to like me? It's all like external. It has nothing to do with like me. I just want to do a good job. But the ironic part is the only way I can do a good job is if I really focus on the job that I'm doing, none of the other stuff. And when the other stuff falls away, then I can really focus on what matters. And in my career, that's like the creative part. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of this dance with myself. How do I not sabotage myself by thinking about all of these external things? How can I focus? I think also one thing that, is really interesting with photography is like you go in there with a plan, but you really have like one, maybe 2 days max, but one day, let's just pretend we're talking about an artist or an actor or talent. One day, a couple hours to like get it right. And I can go in there like knowing what I think is a plan. So I have a mood board and I go over the mood board and I talk about the lighting and how I want the lighting to be and how I want, the color to be and what I think would be the best kind of way to see that I see this person before they get there. But then I really want to be respectful of that person as an artist themselves. So, that person's going to come with a lot of opinions also. So I can think that I'm going in to do one thing and it might totally shift and become something completely different, which has happened so many times. And to have to kind of pivot, I think I've learned to pivot and not panic. And I think that's like a very important skill in any field, is just the ability to be, I don't want to say like malleable to the point where you don't have an opinion, but flexible, I feel like is really important, especially when you're working with other people. If you're working like in a very, when you're working by yourself, that's one thing. But when you're working with other artists and people who have other opinions, I think it's important to be open to those things. The challenging part of some of what I do is like the plan always changes. So how do I, my internal conversation is, how do I relax knowing that the plan could change, and the plan usually does change? And if I'm not prepared for that, what can I do to, help my confidence in the moment? How can I kind of navigate that? Because usually, we have only a couple hours to get this right, basically. And I think that's where a lot of the pressure comes in, is when there's a really strict time limit. You have to kind of, you have to get it in a very small amount of time. Yeah. And that means everything. That means, clients looking over my back, a lot of people having opinions. A lot of the times the artists I'm working with having opinions, people bringing their own insecurities to the table, maybe that have nothing to do with me. But, a lot of times in a picture where you're looking at yourself, how can those insecurities not come out, from the other person's perspective? Because I have so many insecurities, actually, I think it's maybe great for what I do, because I can really talk someone through their own insecurities while looking at themselves, and kind of figure out how to like help them through a moment where maybe they're feeling really down on themselves, which is sometimes really stressful and sometimes like really amazing and really like a connecting moment.
And do those interactions happen privately?
I was working with this really big music artist, and we came up with a plan. We were shooting like a music video, and I think something triggered her, and she ran off set. She was really upset, and I remember feeling so like startled, like, oh my God, what did I do? What just happened here? It was like for me a complete shock. So for that, we did take a private moment, and I really talked to her like almost just like a friend, and really tried to understand on the personal level, like where is this coming from? And luckily she like let me in on it. But it was a really nice moment just to understand that, she had her own insecurities completely separate of anything that we were doing. And what we were doing just happened to trigger that in the moment. It was it was like a place of real vulnerability. And then I felt relaxed when she opened up and kind of expressed that. I was like, okay, yes, like I can fully relate to that now that I know. But there are some instances where I might not know, and someone might not let me in on that, even if I try.
And you still have to navigate to the goal. Yes, right?
I have to navigate to the goal. Yeah. It's
so interesting because photography is something that, especially the really, amazing, often studio, magazine, editorial, the work that you do is so, it's like the point should be, I'm sure, to like make people explore a human side of people, but really like behind the curtain, you're seeing like really the human side of people because they're so vulnerable in that space. And yet you need to like capture in an instant their most powerful expression of something, whatever the goal is there, whatever it is. It could be like powerful vulnerability, but it's like you're kind of like creating a concise poem, but what you're seeing behind the curtain is a completely unraveled yarn.
Yes. So beautiful.
So no, I'm just appreciating. And
are you a writer?
I'm a writer. Are you a writer?
You're a writer. So poetic.
You're able to, but what I cannot but think that like for you as someone who's admitted that you have these anxieties and insecurities, to see these gigantic figures in our world also have that must be an interesting experience, to just know that everybody is insecure in some way or other, and everybody's just trying their best.
Yes.
And that you end up being like the mentor to them, helping them in ways, even if it's a silent mentorship, like you just simply adapting your ways to make them feel different is still a guide in a way. does it help you with your own self-talk?
Totally. And I think, yes, I'm so happy you brought that up, because I think it's been really helpful for me to actually have to find my own kind of inner stability and confidence when I'm in these moments, to kind of be that guide for someone else when I have a hard time even being a guide for myself. Maybe where I can be the guide for someone is my ability with how I handle my own anxiety, because I really do feel like it is a lot of the time, or in my experience with myself, it's a choice. I could either unravel, like you said, I can kind of be a balloon that's flying off that gets really nervous, that, you know, has a hard time articulating, or I could just take a breath and focus and talk to someone as if, you know, with respect. It's really just about respect and being present and listening. Mm-hmm. And I think if I can maintain that, then it really is helpful for, you know, the rest of the team, whether it's the person I'm working with, the client. And that doesn't mean I'm not feeling anxiety inside. Like a lot of the times, a lot of people will tell me on set that I'm really calm and confident, which I'm always shocked by, because it's so the opposite of how I feel inside. But I think
you're composed.
I'm composed. I'm able to maintain like that composure, which for me at the end of every day is like such a big feat. And that's like one thing that I think if I were to step outside of myself and feel proud of myself for, it would be the ability to do that, because it takes a lot to do that.
It takes a lot for me too. It's why I was like, I think this is why I like need like decompression time at the end of the day. Cause sometimes I feel like it's like output, like hold it together, do the, you know, and then things unexpected will like drain your willpower quicker than you thought. And then I do feel like there's a part of the end of the day that needs to like basically account for whatever it was that I had to like tighten and block like the air that came out. Like it's almost like I'm like a tire that like throughout the day I'm like, nope. Yes. A little more air, whatever. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, 1,000%. And I need to repair this tire a little bit. Yes. But this is the life I'm choosing. Like I understand it's not that I'm offended, because this is what it is to live. I think we have very different careers, but we actually similarly need to like kind of move goals forward and be team captains of sorts. Of people who are unpredictable. And
it's the unpredictability. Yeah. Yes.
Hey guys, Alexi here to tell you about my new favorite shoe from Merrell, the Antora 4. So I've been traveling a lot lately. I went to Japan, Mexico, Chile, Michigan, and I also travel a lot in my mind. But really, the Antora 4s just came out, and I've run multiple marathons in them. I run on roads, I run on trails, I hiked all over Kyoto in them, just like Scarlett Johansson in Lost in Translation. I think she was wearing Merrell's in the movie. So don't check my work, or what is it? Anyway, they are very cute with skirts, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on the black. And yes, the dirt is real because I actually run in these. The Antora 4s rock. They're comfortable, versatile, and they last a long time. And if you're trail curious, try these guys out because they will turn the trail curious into the trail enthusiast. Antora 4s. For a limited time, we're partnering with Merrell to give you an exclusive offer of 25% off your first purchase using code MentorBuffet25 when you check out on Merrell.com. You can find my favorite Merrell shoes and gear at Merrell.com/Alexi. I'm really getting into that training mode lately. I'm ramping up my volume to the highest it's been in a really long time, but some things have evolved since I was training at a high level. For one, I feel like a completely different person, and also what I put in my body has evolved too. Momentous is one of my ways of taking recovery seriously. I go for the Momentous 3 because it has everything I need: protein, creatine, and omega-3. Expert research shows that most people don't get an adequate amount of any of these nutrients from their diet alone, even when you really eat the rainbow at every meal. So taking these daily will help your brain and your body on a cellular level. I put the protein in my smoothie when I'm moving fast. I got to turn it around quick a lot of these mornings between training and coming to the studio. And I also take the Momentous creatine. It helps with my focus and energy. The Momentous creatine uses Creapure, which is the purest creatine monohydrate available. In addition to recovery, creatine also helps me focus. All these Momentous products are rigorously tested, backed by science, and use the highest quality ingredients available. That means no gums, fillers, artificial flavors, or sweeteners. Head to livemomentous.com and use code MentorBuffet for 35% off your first subscription. That's code MentorBuffet at livemomentous.com for 35% off your first subscription.
I think that some people have a stronger sense of self maybe than other people, which is amazing. And I always try and take notes. I'm always like, I love to observe people, just to kind of take little snippets of, wow, that's so cool that someone can stand up for themselves in that way. Or wow, that's so cool that someone is confident laying their boundaries down like that. You know, and it's not necessarily an egotistical thing or you know, it's just an inner self-confidence, which I think is amazing because I don't necessarily have that. But I still, if I were to be really objective, I still really think that people who come off almost in a really harshly confident way, I think I really believe have a lot of insecurities. And I'm not just saying that to kind of make myself or someone else feel better. I think from what I've seen, those people actually are the most fragile
because they're convex because they're trying to not let anything
totally
get into the armor.
Yes.
So they push it out before it even enters their makes them feel anything.
Totally.
So that I think that brings about like a little aggression.
Yes. My best friend and I, we talk about like, you know, we used to talk about trying things on like, just because we would always talk about our insecurities together. It was just, and we would, you know, pretend that we were going to try on like confidence, like a sweater today. Like, what does that look like? Let's just try on confidence. Let's try on, you know, and it actually really does help. So that's something that I do sometimes too, is just, I'm going to just try it on like a sweater and see how it fits today. And maybe today, like, yeah, maybe today it'll work with me. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm literally going to take this off and it's like itchy and I can't, you know, it doesn't fit today.
So it's trying it on means putting on like taking something on without having the proof that you've earned it yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like, cause to try on
I don't have to be that all the time, you know, right? I don't have to like, maybe it is who I am today. Maybe it's not who I am tomorrow.
Let me challenge it a little bit because to act like these things need to be a sweater is almost a problem because it's like saying that you are fixed and you like are either going to return back to the thing without the sweater or not, instead of having it all be like just a forward motion of like actually now it's almost like in my mind, you're always walking forward and you put on the sweater of boundary sweater or whatever, but you keep walking forward. Even if you take it off, you're still not the person you were before you put it on. You're not like reverting. You're just making more decisions.
Yes.
Because we're not fixed, right? It is so rare for me to be freshman at something and, to be honest, bad at a sport. But I really love those opportunities to try something new, and I feel most comfortable when I'm doing it in a fun environment with somebody who feels like a real teammate. Joe, the founder of Go Brewing, is awesome. Go Brewing in every way represents his ethos. It's about optimistically pursuing a healthy dream. And we did this fitness competition in Las Vegas together called High Rocks. And we were not the worst people there. And we never left each other's sides in the running portion, partially because it's against the rules, but also because we were having so much fun. Go Brewing has not only become a staple in my day, but has also helped color the way I see my life right now, which is full of flavor and balance. The beers have real fruit and are about 50 calories each. Right now, I love the New School Sour and the Salty AF Chilada. It's refreshing and salty and has a little lime flavor. You've got to try it out. Visit gobrewing.com/Alexi and I'll add my favorites to your cart. You'll even get 15% off your first order. Here's to new friends, shared experiences, and unforgettable moments. Very good. You talk about an experience a couple of years ago shooting the last print issue of Allure with Allure? Allure
Yes.
with Jennifer Aniston.
Yes.
And you wrote this awesome caption. She's like Greek and I met her once. So I'm like, this is like a person that feels very real to me.
Yes.
And you wrote this caption that was like, thank you for experimenting and playing dress up as my 2000s dream woman. And I wanted to know, like, what does it feel like for you to play dress up like that?
Jennifer Aniston.
With Jennifer Aniston. Yeah. What does it feel like to play dress up with Jennifer Aniston in terms of like, because when I think about dress up, I'm like little girls that are like, try this on. No, try this on. No, I'll try this. Like there's this playful like tug of war.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it? What was that like? If you're okay talking about that experience.
I think it kind of is like, it's not necessarily a tug of war, but it was kind of like, oh, like what? We have all these things. Let's try them on. Let's see. How do we push ourselves out of this, this comfort zone that we're all in? And I think, she definitely did that on that shoot because she was wearing some 90s barely there
It
things.
was awesome.
She's like a very unique like unicorn because she really is so kind, like to everyone. Not everyone's like that. She, with me at least, is very willing to like play and experiment. I think that's because we've worked together so many times now that there's like a trust that's been built. But it was just so, it was really fun. It was like trying almost like a different character. It was like she was trying, different clothes on as if the clothing was, characters from different time periods or movies.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
I'm aware that like sometimes you're executing like probably on like a brief or like there's there's something so tight where like, yes, you have, agency and leadership, but you're balancing a lot. And so really like, what does it feel like when you're able to lead with fewer constraints?
I'm really envious of the photographers and people who, or artists who really just march to the beat of their own drum and don't look to the external to like guide their creative. And a lot of the times with what I do specifically, because a lot of it is more commercially driven, there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of restraints to be working with. So I would say that my job a lot of the times is to like help guide and help everyone come together to align on how to make something, like bring something into fruition. And maybe everyone has a difference of opinion, but kind of my job is to connect the dots and kind of find a way to make that happen in a visual way. So there are like few times that I think I'm given the ability to create with fewer restrictions. It does happen. And I'll do a lot of like personal projects. I'm not the best at doing them because I think I'm really good at giving 100% when I get a job. I'm like so focused, and then I'm kind of all over the place when left to my own devices. It's something I want to get better at. But when you're like, when I'm working with, I guess editorial would be the most like generalized, and editorial is like, when you shoot for a magazine is the most generalized kind of category with where you can be the most creative, because, a lot of times you're not getting paid for it. So it's really just for the purpose of creating like a picture and making something beautiful or interesting. So those are the times where I can be more, I think, creative. But usually in those moments, I guess there'll be more ability to like play and try things and experiment, and the willingness to fail together. I think the key to anything successful is like the person that I'm working with has to be willing to try something, even if they're going to look like an idiot or they're going to look stupid or it's not going to look good. And same with me. Like I'll have ideas that sometimes I'm nervous to ask someone to do because I'm afraid that they're going to judge the outcome or think that that idea is stupid.
Right.
And so it's almost like, they'll have to be willing to meet me there and to like not like the picture, or to let me change the lighting, or to not be so hard on themselves when they see a picture they don't love. And I think that's when like the most magical images happen, is like patience and the willingness to collaborate and not overly judge yourself.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was like, what is that for a writer? Oh, it's like a rough draft. It's a free write. But for you, the words are a person, right?
Yeah, interesting.
So like, it doesn't matter if like I write a bunch of crap one day on my fun writing day because the words don't have feelings. Yes. But you have like a person that's actualizing your art, and it only exists in a form of like mostly a human
Yes.
subject. So,
Totally.
so I can imagine that it leaves the most possibility for like expansion and like wonderful feelings. And then also just you need the caveat of like, we're taking a risk here.
Yes.
And that risk is a choice we're making. And we're buying in before we go in.
Totally.
And we're diving in that pool, or we're not, you
Yes.
know? So it really is, it feels like it really is an act of like jumping in the pool with somebody is the best version of all of this.
Yeah.
And especially when you're playing in that free space.
Yes. I mean, what you just kind of like reminded me of is just the idea also of like art and commerce and how they marry together. Because I think a lot of the times, like when you're in a creative field, and I mean, we're creative people, I would say we probably consider ourselves artists. But, you know, there used to be a time, I think, where the artist could just be the artist. And part of, I think what I struggle with too is, I don't know if you can just be an artist nowadays and have a business, like a real sustainable, long-lasting business, just kind of going to that, I'm, you know, tunnel vision of being an artist, which is a little bit, you know, like depressing to say out loud, but also kind of the reality of the situation. I think you have to play the game a little bit, which I never like to do, but I mean, play the game can be, so that's such a subjective thing. It doesn't have to be like a manipulative, subversive thing at all. It just has to be willing to kind of put in the time and know when to play by the rules and then know when to like break the rules kind of. But also like be aware of your business, because one thing that I wish that I had, I guess, more guidance on is just how art and commerce kind of blend together. And I think for me, because I've been so focused on, you know, wanting the kind of desire to make my art into a long-lasting business with like real legs that I can, you know, provide for myself and my family with. And I think with that comes like sacrifices that you make. But then I wonder sometimes if, I mean, maybe you've had someone else on that maybe those people haven't had to make sacrifices in that creative way. And I'm so curious always like what that looks like, because I feel like for me, I've made a lot of creative sacrifices in order to find my way into this commercial world that maybe sometimes I feel is not even genuinely who I am, but I've wanted to kind of find my footing in a way that feels stable. So the sacrifices I've made are a lot of creative sacrifices. And what that looks like, you know, what does that look like on the other side? Not making as many creative sacrifices, but really holding true to like your vision. And that doesn't mean alienating people or you know, being a dick to work with, but just really knowing what you're like, where your creativity has a point of view. That I don't like, I don't know. I'm always so curious to kind of ask other people about that too.
We want our career to be being artists, not like our hobby. And so to have it be your career, like hopefully in an ideal world, it's the same as you said, like doing what you really, really want to do in a moment does afford you the life you want. But like, I don't know. I wish that people would talk more about the intersection of art and commerce, because that we don't talk about it doesn't help more art be made. It actually just makes it like an illusion that you should either be able to make a living with it without considering the puzzle piece of life, of commerce, of business, of, you know what I mean, of audiences, of timing, of momentum, of trends, of like all these things that end up becoming the commerce meeting the art. So either people don't talk about them and then it makes people think that it's not for them because they think everybody, basically you saying that is meaningful is what I'm saying, because people look up to you and they want to have a life like yours. And so to understand that there is this like negotiation and there's like you are a businesswoman, I don't think is a bad thing or uninspiring at all. I think it's actually really, really inspiring and awesome. And that's how I feel about it, because because we can be working artists, right? And I don't know what to say about like, maybe it's like there's certain projects, maybe that's where like we have to like juggle like one for me, one for them, or like, you know, people have those sort of principles that they have. But I don't know that I've met anybody who's actually a working artist who isn't kind of balancing that like artistic commerce negotiation in their head and being thoughtful.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they want to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
And I wish someone had told me much younger as like a girl to be like, be independent and support yourself. Like you can have collaborators, you can have partners, you can have everything, but figure out how to like have your own feet on the ground, because I think it does play into the confidence that we're talking about. And I think the ability to do it as like a job is it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it is. Did no one tell you that?
It all felt like I realized things rather than I was like mentored into it, which is sometimes left me like embarrassingly under prepared for things or like learning things the hard way.
I totally relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom ingrained in me that, you have to have your own thing. You have to, your power is in your art, basically, is what she told me. But I'm still flailing in a way. So maybe it is just the soul of the person, or like, our own karma, or our own path that we have to kind of find based on who we are. Because I feel like you're such a sensitive, kind person also. And it's,
I'm very sensitive. I try to be kind.
You definitely
like,
are.
Oh, thank you.
You're all of those things. And it's like, I think that path is just, it's like, it's hard. Being sensitive it's hard to kind of like harness your own confidence when you're really sensitive, I think, a lot of the time, because you're getting hit constantly with all these things that you have to kind of filter through.
Yeah.
And then find your own vision through that.
Yeah. What is stopping you from doing those personal projects?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, like the idea of failing.
Oh, really?
Totally. Just the idea of like sucking and no one caring, and me, honestly, maybe me not even at this point having a vision, I think. I think having a vision is really like exercising a muscle in a way. I really think I really think that anyone who wants to have a vision can have it. But I think you have to really want it and to put time into it. I really believe that. And I feel like for me, I've not focused on that part of me, which is like a muscle that I have to exercise. So I don't even know sometimes what the vision is anymore. And then I really have to like refocus. And once I put time into that, then I'm like, okay, now I remember. I know who that person is. I know what this person wants to say. But I really think it all stems from fear.
This is almost the other side of the coin of what we were just talking about, where you're used to receiving like constraints, like these like poetic constraints of like the brand, the person, and you're basically saying that's actually where you're comfortable. Totally. Because that's the purpose, and that's the mission.
Yes.
And so when you're left
clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're left to your own devices, you have to invent all the all the constraints or the why.
Yes.
And that you haven't given yourself enough space to do it, or you're afraid that it won't mean anything if someone's not ordering for it to exist.
Yes. Or like, I guess, validating it. Totally.
Or validating it.
But the irony is, I think that the most successful are the people who have the ability to self-start. I think that's like really the key, is knowing that you can rely on yourself to start anything. And it doesn't matter who's looking over your shoulder, who's commissioning you, who's not commissioning you, just to start somewhere. And the irony is, I remember when I first started out as a photographer, that's all I would do. I was so, it's easy to be confident behind a computer, right? To be like, I'm going to email this person. But I had to self-start. So it's almost like I had to do those creative projects in order to get the kind of commercial projects. And I think, now I'm really feeling that burn for what the next chapter is for myself, which is how do I, not to bring it back to art and commerce, but there's some photographers and directors who really do such a great job of like, staying true to their vision and then doing something that's commercially viable that a lot of people, like. And not that that means anything, but just commercial is something that we would all see. So I have to really focus on like, how do I get back to that artful place, to kind of get to that place that I actually really am wanting to get to. So yeah, I think that's kind of how, like, where I'm stuck and struggling and trying to figure out as we speak.
Yeah. It's like it's a space and time thing, because you can't, it's like we need more space, and we can't like reach for those things. It has to feel like it's coming to us. I went to this meditation with Deepak Chopra.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing because he sat this like tiny group. We were all sitting there and he was like, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to not reach for the answers. He was like, I just want you to repeat the question over and over again for yourself and just see what comes, but do not try and get the answer. And it was so interesting because I've never been told like whatever question I'm asked. So who am I, or what am I grateful for, or what is my purpose, or what am I meant to be capturing in my art, or whatever it is, just repeat it over and over again. Like, what am I meant to be capturing in my art, or what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And he's basically saying that we're thought machines and things will come. They just might not be rooted in the commercial world. They might be abstract because we are, no matter what thoughts come, like that's the anxiety, that's the actual pot, that is the actual reservoir that the anxiety doesn't stop, but also the thoughts don't stop.
Totally.
So to ask over and over again is to give yourself the space and the time for things to come to you that are not a job. They're just these things. They're ideas. It might be images. Mine was like definitely a vague thing. I was like, what is my purpose? And it was like me hugging 21-year-old girls and being like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, which isn't a job.
But that's kind of what you're doing.
But it's what I'm doing. Yeah. But it was like,
amazing.
And it's the opposite of the job because it might come in this like abstract form at first. And then you'll keep kind of being like, okay, it's purple, like weird. Yeah. Okay, it's just purple. It's all I've got so far. It's purple, it's velvet, whatever, and you'll start to like, so maybe that'll help you.
Yes, I love that.
Because otherwise I think it is a lot of pressure. And I think because we're so conditioned to turn everything into a job, we reach for an occupation or something that we know exists already.
Yes.
When if it's your original, if it's your own voice, it probably doesn't even exist yet. And it probably is a little abstracted in its like infancy.
Totally. I have a question for you. Do you feel like your audience, or when you say you want it kind of, in your the girls that you were hugging in your vision, like, which I love that because I think it's so awesome. I wonder, it's like, it's easy for us to kind of, I'm going to kind of pull back and watch us. It's easy for us to sit here and talk about, kind of our existential concerns, or like, our abstract concerns. But I wonder do you think a lot of your audience struggles with the abstract or the tangible? Like, how do you do this and how do you literally put one foot in front of the other? That's
a great question. Most of these people really need to like build a life for themselves. So there's something like there's barriers that are tangible, like job, like they're not, it feels like they don't have the space to only be in the existential for the most part.
Yes,
there's
exactly.
Like real rubber hit the road moments.
Like real survival.
Real survival. But they're like intertwined with these existential, and I think it's almost like a negotiation of which is more important and how do I have both matter?
Yeah.
Because you can't just answer to your existential, or you might like not be able to feed yourself.
Yes.
And then if you're only answering to the tangible concerns, you might have no soul. Like you might just be a robot.
Yes.
Or an imprint of somebody else and not living your own life. So I think it's almost like people are struggling with the two together at once. And maybe what really has to happen is you actually have to be able to separate them and be like, what are the actual practical things going on here that I'm struggling with, and what are the existential, and not intermingle them when you're thinking about them, because that gets really confusing.
Yes, that's very confusing.
And we have confusion partly to protect ourselves. Like your body creates certain mechanisms so that you don't go into situations that were previously dangerous.
Yeah.
And so you confuse yourself.
Totally.
You don't mean to, right? Even your anxiety, right?
Yes.
Like it might be a confusion, right?
Yes.
Because your body's like, actually, we'd rather not be vulnerable to the failure.
Yeah.
So we're going to like give you a little anxiety so you might not even go in that room.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then you have to do that little like bubble popping negotiation so that you go in there. But it was really trying to protect you,
Yes.
Anyway, there's so many. Well, I wanted to know how you feel when you're when someone takes a photo of you.
Oh God. I mean, I don't know if I'd let it happen.
Really?
Yes. My God. No, I understand. I understand fully the vulnerability. I mean, also, I think it's different when you're used to being photographed. You're in front of the camera. You're an actor. You're a model. That your external body is your kind of performance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're behind the camera, to go in front of the camera, I think is really, really vulnerable. But having said that, one thing I do love to do when I'm working with someone is I love to kind of pose with them and show them what to do. But to be actually behind a static camera, no, I understand the tension and the stress.
That's awesome.
I will say one thing that you both brought up that reminded me of something. I think today particularly is really, I think it's really hard to navigate like the world of creativity and even a career path in general. I think today is like, I have so much empathy for anyone who's like younger than me who's trying to figure out what to do. I mean, I feel lost and I feel like I at least have more of a defined career path for myself, but I think to not have a career path or know how to get there can be so overwhelming, and especially today. So I really do think like the irony is there, because we have so much more access to everything, we have social media, we have the internet, it should be easier to access questions or answers to any questions and information. But I think it's so overwhelming that it's almost like people get stuck and even more lost. So I think you really have to like pave your own path like more than ever, even though the irony is like you almost feel like you shouldn't have to.
Yes, because there's so much information, there's a feeling of it shouldn't be hard anymore because it's all there. Yeah. And yet if it still feels hard, then you feel even more isolated than ever because you feel that you're not allowed to be. Totally. I sense that with like a lot of like 25-year-olds or something, you know what I mean? Where they're like, it's still hard. And you're like, yes, it's always going to be hard to chase your dream and to do something you've never done before, to grow up. Like maybe we should just say that to people where it's like, no matter what, it's still going to be hard, and it's just going to be hard in these different ways. Yeah. And it's still supposed to be about seeing yourself navigate it regardless. Right.
Yes. And I think that like maybe before, or maybe in a more traditional career path, there are kind of these benchmarkers of what to do, what the next step is. People can tell you kind of how to get from point A to point B. I think in kind of what we're talking about, whether it's creativity or sports or I don't think there's like a linear way or linear answer for anything. It's like you really have to do what feels right in the moment and be open. And that sounds so like cheesy and intangible, but like that's the only thing that I've done too. And I think I'm still trying to get to the place that I want to be at. It's like I don't think any of us like ever stop doing that. I don't think. I think the unknown is the good part, right?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It has to be, because that's the only surprise.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
And it's true.
Yeah.
Like
you can't control it. Right?
Yeah, I love it. If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.